Okay, Softlock Night Zone. Here we go. So fast spin dash from the start again. Once the ground is flattened out, not while you're on the downslope, once you're on the flat ground here, do a tap jump, like as light of a jump as you can. You'll land just before this box. Spin dash and jump immediately after the box. You actually can't jump, it'll eat your jump if you jump immediately after breaking the box, so you jump a tiny bit later after breaking the box. Make it over here, holding right. Land on this platform, jump off here. Probably not a full jump or else you'll bonk on this bumper here, but medium jump off there. Land on this slope, hold down, roll all the way off this slope. Once you bounce off here, hold right, and then slow down to stop here. As soon as that block clears this wall, jump onto it, jump up, grab the wall on the other side, do one or two fast climbs, then jump off that wall onto the spring. And we're at this section, which I will get to with full speed shoes, please. Thank you very much. Right. Alright, if you see you're about to overshoot this box and bounce off of it, you can always cancel with a glide there, land before it. No, hit the button. So jump. Nope, too early. Jump up, climb up, get the red spring. You want to hold nothing all the way up until here, and then start holding right at that point. Otherwise you hit that bumper. So run into this flipper. This is a fairly inconsistent trick because your speed can change so much minusculely depending on what frame you flip off various flippers. So we're trying to zip all the way to the end of the level. You want to wait slightly on this flipper so that you hit the roof. You want Knuckles to hit the roof there. And then start holding left somewhere around this point. If you do it perfectly, you can land immediately on this flipper instead of having to wait to turn around there. But it doesn't really matter either way. So when you're on this flipper, you may want to look for a particular frame while rolling down this flipper to try and make this consistent if you try and go off the same frame flipped off this flipper every time. But I find if I wait slightly later than I think on this flipper, if you don't go too early, the window gets bigger for this, but it might just be me. Everyone has their own feel for this. I'd really like to go and contact Super Boom Fern to show his method for this because it's slightly different to everyone else's and seems to be more consistent. But yeah, there's various different methods for this. I'm going to show the one that I use. So once you're about halfway down this flipper, for me, we're going to hold jump and right at the same time. You will run onto this slope and continue to hold right and run across the roof. Now I'm looking for particular pause frames in order to slow down to fall in the exact spot that allows you to zip without soft locking or falling out of the wall. So there's 4 bumpers along the bottom of the screen here. So I'm looking at the bottom right of the screen, I'm looking at these green dotted blocks in the background and the bumpers. So I'm going to pause as I come along here. I'm going to wait until I get to the second last bumper. And when that second last bumper is normally just peeking around the edge of the screen, it's just gone off screen, it's like a frame late for me. So this bumper is just coming off the edge of the screen. Depending on what speed you've run up around that slope, depending on the exact frame you flipped off that second flipper, there will be different amounts of bumper on screen per frame. It won't always be the exact same frames that you see this bumper for. That's why this trigger is variable, because the exact speed you get while coming off of that flipper onto the slope will change around. But I will hold down about here, or unpause and pause about twice, because I'm looking at this rightwards edge of this final green dotted block, and I want the right hand border of the screen to be about halfway in between that right edge and the left edge of the previous green dotted block. And then I will, like, you have to get a feel for this if you go for it. If you do the level perfectly without this glitch, by the way, you only lose about 3 or 4 seconds. So this is kind of silly, but it looks really cool. So at this point, I will have paused and I will switch to holding left and then I will unpause. And this is the goal. You fall in this terrain. In this terrain, every time there is this kind of vertical pillar, there is a strip, a column of zippable wall. If you fall into that column, you'll be able to zip, which is what we want. If you fall into a gap in between these 2 columns in this square here, where these 6 black windows are, there is not zippable wall, and you will fall out into that and be soft locked. Or if you slow down too early, you will fall out on the right hand of this zippable wall and just fall back into the level, and be slow because you would have run out of speed cheese very soon. I will probably come back to this trick if more consistent ways are found to it, but I won't talk about it too much for now. You just kind of have to get a feel for it with those vague references of those about frames I was pausing. But if you land in the correct spot like we have here, just hold left, holding left all the way until we see the second block of terrain, and then when this second block of terrain right hand side here goes off the left hand side of the screen, switch to holding right and you will hit the signpost. I did it slightly too early there, so I had to switch back to holding left. As soon as you hear the signpost hit, switch back to holding left, otherwise again the game will softlock. But as long as you're holding left after you've hit the signpost, then the ending screen will trigger. If you don't, it won't. And you can get 24s and even 23s with this if you land on the flipper perfectly and climb up the wall after the block perfectly with knuckles. And I'll go over the way to do this level normally as well. So Casino Night 1 there. So up until that point with the flippers, everything goes the same. I'm going to flip off this flipper. We want to land just before this box and jump off of that box. And then we'll be over here. We want to jump up under that block before it comes down. And we want to get to just as this downward slope is descending and jump there so that we don't land on this flipper. If you land on this flipper, you can just make it flip you as early as possible and then hold back to the right and continue on. At this point, oh, I've actually missed a jump. At this point, you want to jump as late as possible off of the corner of this box here so that you hit your head on this roof is the optimal jump there. And that will mean that you bounce off of those bumpers very late. I'm not going fast enough to do that now. Anyway, you'll bounce off those bumpers very late, and you'll have enough speed to have bounced all the way over this section, and you'll land here on this section. If you don't, you can either glide across that section like I just did, or jump slightly later off of the ground there and hopefully still make it across here. It's sketchy. You really don't want to fall down anywhere in this level. Once you're running along this section, you'll still be running at full speed with speed cheese, hopefully. You want to wait until you're on top of these boxes, do a jump and then do a glide and cancel your glide by letting go of A straight away, and you'll fall down just past the corner of this terrain. It'll make you roll automatically here. You want to fall down in a straight line from just past the corner of that terrain, so that you just miss the right end of this flipper and fall in between these two bumpers like this. And then you'll fall straight down into this spring, which you want to hold down A until it's almost at its very base. You can see just the last grey spring appeared and then let go. Hold right through this section. As soon as you're on this slope, you want to jump and then glide onto there and then spin dash. And that's doing the level normally. That's already documented in other places too. So time to Casino Night 2. This one's another very interesting one for Knuckles. This is one of the only levels you don't want to do a full speed spin dash at the start, so you need to remind yourself that Casino Night 2 is coming up and not full speed spin dash. We're going to move in a very particular way in order to keep our subpixels, our vertical subpixels, in the correct spot in order not to softlock while trying to do this level wrap. Shout out to Worcester for this particular setup that hasn't been documented in a tutorial anywhere yet. What we're going to do is do a one-tap spin dash, jump so that we collect all the rings, or the first two rings there, and we want to fall. It has to be a full jump, by the way. It has to be a full jump. You want to fall in between this end of the terrain and this bumper, and you don't want to hit either of them. If you hit either of them, you've ruined your subpixel manipulation. And if you want to manipulate your subpixels properly and eliminate the chance of soft-locking, you will have to kill yourself on an enemy just up there and restart the level. So as soon as you land here, you turn around, spin dash into this spring, so one tap as fast as possible. Hold right as soon as you've touched the spring and go all the way up here, land on this. Once you've landed on this, do a full jump and start holding left once you've cleared the box there, so that you come back flush with, that's not a very good illustration, you want to be flush with this wall. There we go. So, like but as long as you're flush with this wall by the time you've fallen down to near this box, it's fine. But just for the purposes of illustration, we're flush with this wall, and the goal is to clip into this wall using this box. So if you glide on the exact frame before you would break this box, it clips you into the wall on the left. You have to be facing left to glide to the left. The frames that work for this, I mean, it only works on one frame, but the visual cues that you have to know what frame that is this is one frame away from the frame that you have to press jump on. So if you've paused on this frame, this is the latest frame you can pause on if you're going for it with a pause. If you pause on this frame, you unpause and jump the frame after unpausing. There we go. So that's what it'll look like. If you pause on, say, this frame, you're 2 frames away, so you need to unpause and try and jump 2 frames after unpausing, like that. And I have various different hand positions to try and make those different frames happen. It helps immensely to pause again after you've just clipped in with the box, because you can either be falling straight down the wall, or you can just be grabbed onto the wall halfway through the box. And if you're grabbed onto the wall halfway through the box, that's fine too. You just hold down, or you just press down, and it drops you off the wall on the left side of the box, the same place you would be. But the important part is you need to begin facing to the right in this wall before you land on the ground. So if you've paused here, you have time to react to that. I can see that I'm facing to the left. You need to hold right and let go of right before you've touched the ground here. If you have touched the ground and haven't turned to the right yet, you can still get this to work by only touching right for 2 frames, 2 or 3 frames I think it is, which you can do by pressing right and pausing immediately afterwards, and then letting go of right and unpausing, just to make sure you've tapped the button for a very light amount of time. All of this is to keep our subbooks in the right range in order to not softlock in this wall. Okay, so once you're here and you're facing right, do one tap spin dash to drop down. Once you've dropped down and you've landed in the wall somewhere here, do 2 more one tap spin dashes as quick as you like. Once you've done 2 more one tap spin dashes, hold right for a little tap, and you'll see that the camera moves upwards, and you're upwards in this section now. If the camera hasn't moved upwards at this point, you've probably fallen into the wall and softlocked, and your subbooks manipulation hasn't gone well. Once you've moved upwards, do 1 more one tap spin dash. I didn't do one there. That's interesting. There we go, that's fine. You can do it anywhere along that section of the wall, as long as you haven't come out of the wall yet. As long as you're not on the last frame of zipping out the wall. And then, hold right immediately after doing that one tap spin dash. Sorry, I didn't say that. So this third one tap spin dash, after moving up, we're holding right immediately after doing it. And then you're looking for the exact frames to be able to let go of right, so that Knuckles is at the correct speed to get through the level boundary, otherwise you'll just bonk up against the level boundary, which you'll see here. You'll just end up at the start of the level again, having hit the wall. This is a frame that works. If Knuckles is on the first frame, this is the first frame that you see him outside of the wall. You can let go of your right arrow key and just unpause, and he will go through the wall, and the level wrap will commence. If he is 1 frame after this, like this is the 2nd frame outside the wall, you can again let go of right and unpause, and it will work. If he's 3 frames out of the wall, it will no longer work. So if you see Knuckles any further than that, or off the screen, he's already gone too far, keep holding right. There's another window that can work at this point. So if you've missed that window, I'm now looking at the right border of the screen, the right hand side of the screen, and I'm waiting until it lines up with here. I'll get to it. So this will work. It's more like a 3 or 4 frame window for this one. It's actually a bigger window. I'll use frame advance again to show it. So this frame, let's see. Yeah, that's the first frame that works. This is the 2nd frame that works. This is the 3rd frame that works, and I think this 4th frame works too. Yeah, that 4th frame works too. So there's a 4 frame window there. In order to let go of right again, all you have to do is let go of right during that time, and you will level up, and you will end up over here. What you want to do ending up over there is jump out of the wall and grab onto that same wall while you're off screen, waiting for the boss. So the cue I use while the screen is scrolling across is this section. Once you get to this large, well, once you see the checkpoint, I suppose. Once you see the checkpoint, jumping out from the wall and going back onto the wall. Climb up to about this line here in the wall, holding right and up, and we're doing a little jump fairly quickly so that we hit Robotnik as soon as he appears on screen. He appears just here. Got slightly early. You can time it with the fade out of the music as well. So we hit him there. As soon as he appears on screen, after you've hit him, grab onto the wall straight away. You want to be at about the height of just in this golden thing. You can do it from even lower. It gets slightly trickier the lower you do it, but it's slightly faster. And we're waiting until we see him about halfway. We want to land on him when he's about halfway. If you've hit him as early as possible, he becomes vulnerable again when he's about halfway across. So you want to jump so that you meet up with him as he's halfway across this arena. Slightly early. So bouncing off this boss is way trickier than it looks. It's really annoying. Although if you play Sonic, you already know. That's the boss fight. Looks easy, right? No. Incorrect. So it's the same as the fast method I was trying to explain on the level 2, on the Emerald Hill boss. As soon you're holding right because you need to get over there to the right. You're holding left even because you need to get over there to the left to get over on top of him. But just as you're about to land on him, you want to actually be moving as straight down as you can without coming at him at a large leftward angle. Otherwise, you'll bounce way off to the right like that, and you can't get back onto him for another bounce. So just as you're about to land on him, switch to holding right, which is counterintuitive, and you'll bounce way closer to him. And then you'll come back by holding left. Like as soon as you've hit him, you can start holding left again. You just need to be holding right while you hit him. Start holding left as you're about to hit him, hold right again, and as soon as you've hit him, switch to holding left again, etc, etc. You also need to be holding jump this entire time for your bounces to be high enough. So every time you hit him, switch to holding left, and once he's coming back the other way, it's the same. You hold left and switch to holding right as you hit him. Actually, at a certain point, you can kind of just switch to holding nothing as you bounce off of him. Yeah, with a bit of practice, eventually it'll look something like this. If in doubt, actually try to not hold down buttons very much, and it works out. And then the Q hitting the capsule is as soon as the leaves of the second palm tree come onto screen. Go full jump. I was wrong, slightly later than that, I guess, I don't know. And then here you can actually look up on top of this capsule as well and despawn the animals faster, and etc, etc. For RTA time save. So I would cover how to do Casino Night 2 normally without the level up, but I don't actually know how really, so I'm going to leave that to someone else.